So, well, cool. Well, hey, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So let me begin our conversation with, we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of living through a pandemic. How did you get
Mhm.
through it, and how did it change you?
Wow, that's a question that requires a little bit of a backstory if you're okay with that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It actually starts in 2019. I hit December 2019. I'd had a very rough year, not only physically myself, but just a lot of circumstances in my life, in my business. And I hit December of 2019 wondering if my business was still going to be open in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, I believe in God, and He gave me the word hope. Just continue to hope, keep going. 2020 is going to be better. So 2020 hits, and in my business, it's about a 90-day sales cycle. So, from the time I start generating leads, prospecting, those types of things, it's about 90 days. Well, that took us to March of 2020.
Yeah.
And as a publisher, the two biggest excuses I usually get are I don't have the money or I don't have the time. March of 2020 hit, the world shut down, and now everyone's at my door going, I have the time. So I was really blessed because, well, many businesses were shut down. Mine actually took off, and it allowed me to go through the pandemic knowing that at least I had some financial stability. But it was hard. Here in Canada, where I live, because of winter, because of the extreme flu seasons that we already had before COVID, we were in lockdown a fair amount of at least 2 winters. And I found that really hard. And, you'd go shopping, you'd have to line up outside the store in the middle of winter, 6 feet apart, waiting for your turn to go in because they had limited numbers. So those kinds of things I found really hard being away from my family. I celebrated my 50th birthday in 2021 over a Zoom call. Can I be honest with you? I cried after that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So those were some things personally that were hard, but business wise, it actually was a very good time for me because it solved one of the two obstacles that most people have to writing books.
So talk to me a little bit about exactly what you do for a living. I know you're a word ninja. I know there's a lot of pieces that go into who you are, but if I was to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
So I look at them and I'd say, I'm the extraordinary word ninja, and I help people, especially those in business, consultants, professional speakers. I help them to write their books that they use to build their business. So these books, when people read them, they want to work with the person who wrote them.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade?
A teacher, a music teacher.
Right on. So, have you always been a music fan? Have you gone to concerts? Has that been kind of a part of your diet?
Uh, when I was a kid, I loved commercials. Actually, my dad told me the story that when I was very little, like 2 or 3, everybody in the house had to be quiet during the commercials because most of those commercials back in the early 70s had jingles in them. And I loved the jingles. I can then remember as I got older, my dad would always have the radio playing. And so grew up, listening to the popular music, and very quickly I would learn the songs, and my dad and I would be singing to them in the car. And my dad loved music, so he always had music going. As a kid, I was in every choir I could be. In grade 6, well, actually, when I was in kindergarten, grade 1, I learned a little bit of piano. When I was in grade 6, I took the viola right through to grade 12. As an adult, I've always been highly involved in our church's music ministry. So I play a little piano, I play my viola, violin, uh, bass guitar. sing. So yeah, music's always been a very, very strong part of my life.
So talk to me a little bit about writing as a word ninja. You took a 30-year hiatus after a teacher made a comment. Talk to me a little bit about your love affair, the on and off love affair with the word for you.
So my story actually starts when I was 4 and my mom passes away. So that was a very difficult time in my life. I felt so different from all the other kids. I went to school, it was hard. And in grade 2, I learned how to write sentences. And as a kid, well, even now, I have a very vivid imagination. I love to imagine. But in grade 2, I could write those words down now, all those stories I used to imagine. And I don't know about you, but I remember the first time that I wrote a story and I drew some really badly drawn pictures because while I'm a really good writer, do not ever ask me to draw anything for you. Like that just doesn't happen. And I gave it to the teacher, and I mean, I loved this teacher. I thought she was gonna be my mom. I'd go home at night and dream that my dad was going to marry her, and she was gonna come home and live with me, and she was gonna be my mom. And so the first time I handed that to her, she looked at it and she said, "Oh, it's so good." Well, my 7-year-old grieving little heart just needed that feminine affirmation. So I started writing piles. Like every day I was handing her these massive piles. The other thing too is because I wanted her to be my mom, I was emotionally needy. I was very clingy to her. And looking back on it, I do believe that she was trying to gently tell me to back off, but I don't think in the late 60s, early 70s, they had courses in teachers' college on how to deal with 7-year-old grieving little girls. And so one day, out of frustration, she looks at me and she says, "Kim, stop writing. You're not a good writer." And you can imagine what happened. My heart was crushed. And I basically didn't write for 30 years. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I wrote in school, you know, when you're working in different things, you have to write, but I didn't write the things that were in my heart. I didn't write the things that I wanted to write. I didn't write the things that I thought could help other people learn. I mean, even as an entrepreneur, I still have a teacher's heart. I love to teach, train, educate, inspire. Now I do it in an entrepreneurial form, but that was always still within me. But every time I ever went to really write something, like write something for me, that thought was in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Don't
Who
write. You're not a good writer.
yeah. So who's been a hero for you in your life?
Oh, my dad.
Yeah.
My dad. So my mom dies at 4, and I don't have one of these stories where, I grew up with a drunk, abusive father. My father was amazing. When my mom died, a lot of the members of the family said, "Dave, you should give the girls," because I have a sister, "you should give the girls up for adoption. There's no way a man can raise 2 girls on his own." And in language that I won't use so you can keep your clean rating, my dad basically told them, to either help him or take a flying leap because he was raising his girls. And he did. And my dad was the type of person that everybody loved. He respected everyone. He listened to everyone. He would ask questions. When you were around my dad, you felt completely comfortable around him. Like you could tell my dad anything, and you could. You could tell my dad anything. And for me, that's who I've always wanted to be. That's who I decided I wanted to be, was someone that everyone felt comfortable around, that you felt loved. You didn't go away from my dad without feeling respected and loved, and that's my hero.
So if you can meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational or admire, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh, actually, the person isn't alive anymore. They just passed away a year or so ago. I would love to have talked to Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a woman who stood the test of time. She was not perfect. She made a lot of mistakes, but she had to withstand things that we would never understand.
Yeah.
And especially as a woman, she had to learn to stand up, be feminine, be herself, but still stand up and say, "Listen, I'm queen. I'm ruling here. And just because you think you can trample over me, you can't."
Yeah. So what's your motivation every day to wake up, to do the work that you do, to help others, to help yourself, to evolve? What is that for you?
Well, let's be honest. Okay. Why does anybody become an entrepreneur? Because they want money and time freedom. So let's just get that one off of the table there.
Yeah.
Uh, the truth is I love helping people get their messages out there. I work with very top level consultants, thought leaders, speakers. These are people who make significant changes in people's lives. And my job is to take those messages and form them into books that are valuable, that are inspiring, that are encouraging, that teach and train you how to get from point A to point B in their area of specialty. And so that I love doing that. It it brings me great amount of joy to be able to work with some of the amazing people I have. I've worked with Olympic coaches. I've worked with very high level sales trainers and consultants. My one client, Larry Levine, if you're in the sales profession, read Selling from the Heart. It has become a movement. One of my other favorite clients, Dave Sanderson, just recently in January, we celebrated the 15th anniversary of the on the Hudson, where the plane landed on the Hudson River and everyone survived. My client, Dave, was on that plane.
Wow.
And so we were actually in New York on January 15th, releasing his third book called The Limitless Life: How to Create Opportunity Out of Uncertainty. And it's all about, just around the time of the plane crash, what happened to him afterwards. He's got two other books which describe before and during the plane crash. This one was just during and afterwards, and the life lessons that he has learned that have helped him to overcome even being in a plane crash.
So, of all of the clients and all of the people that you've worked with and helped, what's one of your favorite client success stories?
That would definitely be Larry Levine,
Yeah.
Selling from the Heart. When I first met him, he had already had the Selling from the Heart podcast. He wanted to get on some stages, so one of the requirements was that he be an author. And as we worked together on the book, though, we realized that there was a whole lot more to this. And he did one thing that most people don't do. See, there's a misconception, there's a teaching and a training out there that says if you write a book, all this business will fall into your lap. It's like a field of dreams. Everyone's going to come. That's not true. You have to use it as a tool. You have to use it as a marketing tool. You have to get it into the right people's hands. And that's what Larry did. He was constantly talking about his messaging. He was constantly talking about the book. He was getting that book into the right people's hands so that now it has become a movement in the sales industry that it's okay to give a rip about your clients, that you don't have to reek of commission breath, that you can be true and authentic and sell from the heart. And it has become a movement.
So, of all the things that you've done and overcome and become so far in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, that one's easy. It's my family. I have two adult children. I have two grandchildren, two grandsons. And I can tell you of all the things I have done in my life, you know, raising my kids to be godly, responsible adults who contribute positively to society, who are making a difference in their own ways. That makes my heart proud. And then when you combine on that the joy of being Nana, oh, I can tell you being a grandparent is the greatest reward for everything you went through in raising your kids.
So, as a writer, what was your favorite book growing up? What was an author or a book that really motivated you?
Hmm. I can't really remember one. I mean, I read all the time.
Yeah.
I was always reading, reading books. The funny thing is that I always read books that were way above my reading level. I can remember my dad was a reader too, and he'd be lying on the couch, and I'd be lying on the couch, and he'd be reading his book, and I'd be reading my book, and I'd always be stopping to ask him what these words were because the vocabulary was beyond my own. And my dad would go tell me, and then he's like, "Will you stop reading books so much ahead of you?" I'm like, "But the other ones are boring, Dad."
So, at the end of the day, you have all these people that see you in a certain light, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, first of all, I'm a child of God. I was created with a purpose. I'm a person who tries to honor my dad by loving everybody.
So, if anyone out there wants to get involved with your reading, learn more about you, reach out to you, anything about your world, where can they go?
Well, there's a couple of places. I am the host of the Author to Authority podcast.
Yes.
So if you are an entrepreneur, consultant, professional speaker, you're thinking about writing a book to build your business, you want to know more about it, you want to know more about authority marketing, which is how you take that book and use it to build your business, you can check out the Author to Authority podcast. It's on YouTube and every major podcast app. If you're a LinkedIn fan, just look up Word Ninja Kim. And if you want to check out the website and fill in a contact form to speak with me personally, you can do that at rtipublishinghouse.com.
Excellent, Kim. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on your show, Joe.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.